What's going on, everybody? So today I want to talk about the new family attribute changes that came along with the previous patch. Now, I think that these are really interesting and warrant a little bit more thought when it comes to going and reforging your gear. Previously, I was of the opinion that the random set bonuses that you get from the family attributes, the cooldown was too long, the chance was too low, it was too RNG, and the bonuses that you got for forcing you into certain stats was kind of mediocre. But now that the bonuses have changed and you can still get those stats with it, I think it's a little bit more of a discussion. Also, Step behind me, love the channel. Thanks for shouting out in the video here. I'm just starting to record, but without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so I had a hard time finding this in game. I kind of clicked on all the little notifications and things like that, but I couldn't find like the infographic of this inside the game. But I want to go over the before patch and after patch. Now, there's actually a little bit of a nerf going on here, but there's also a little bit of a buff going on here. And I think overall it's going to be a massive buff. So first off, before patch, you can stack the same family bonus attribute equip. What we're talking about is like Tremor Stone or Vengeance Stone or things like that that give you a certain effect if you stack multiple of those on multiple pieces of gear. And the way you get that is 3 of the same set, or rather 3 of the same family. So let's say one is like maximum life increase or like beneficial effect duration. If those are the same family, you can pair them together, all 3 of them, and it turns into a family bonus attribute. Now, if you stack 6 of those, so that means 18 different stats in the same family across all your gear, you would have this maximum potential here, which means that instead of having a 2% chance, you'd have a 12% chance. Now, there's a little bit of discussion here when we were earlier on saying, was it a 2% chance or was it a 12% chance, or was it a 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2% chance, if that makes sense, because all of them ticked differently. Looks like, according to the developers, it was a 12% chance. The damage also increased by 50%. The cooldown, however, remained the same. Now you can see after the patch, the damage actually got decreased from the previous maximum down to its base amount of 100% of whatever it was. The chance remains the same. The cooldown on, however, basically got 1/8. Which is a big deal. We have a 13-second cooldown if you stack all 6 of the family attributes. So now, from my perspective, the comparison is it better just go with your best stats, or is it better to go with 6 gear pieces of the same family attribute to get a very low cooldown, albeit with a decently low chance, but 12% isn't that crazy. So let's go back and jump into the game here, talk about some of the different family attributes here on the Reforged Stones. So we can see all the different stats here we can acquire. And here's the question. Is it worth getting this specific family set bonus, or is it not, based on whether or not the stats are good? So for example, let me just talk about the Demon Hunter. What stats am I looking for? Well, if I'm looking for the absolute best stats, primary attack damage, 100%. That is one of the 3 stats that I want in every single piece of my gear pieces. Tremor Stone, is there anything in here? Well, I could go with maybe primary attacks reduce healing or movement speed and attack speed, but to be honest, if I'm looking at PvE builds, then I don't really care about that. Keep in mind that these attributes, if they are part of your gear pieces, these are reduced in PvP. The Jolt Stone here may be beneficial effect duration. I quite like this for Vengeance. If you're running Smokescreen and potentially a Vithus combo, that could be very good. Attack speed, this is a guaranteed one. I want primary attack damage and primary attack speed. These are 1 and 2 for me. After that, it starts to get a little wonky. Like, I could go with that, as I mentioned, a little bit of extra, beneficial effect duration, or I could go with some other things in here, like, for example, maximum life increase. All those could be interesting. But for me, primary attack damage, attack speed, that's 1 and 2 for Demon Hunter. I could also accept skill damage because of the multi-shot damage, Vengeance, potential extra damage on that Vengeance trigger, or critical hit damage. All of these are pretty solid, to be honest, for Demon Hunter. But I would be missing out on the Vengeance Stone primary attack speed. So now that we've gone over what stats I want as a Demon Hunter, so I'd be mixing between Wildfire and Vengeance, let's talk about the family bonuses. What family bonuses would I really want on the Demon Hunter? Now, I've tested all these before. The Fireball Spinning Hydra does a decent amount of damage. It also is an entity, which can be interesting for challenge rifts, so you can have people target it. Primary attacks have a 2% chance to inflict damage and stun. This can actually be very, very good for Demon Hunter, especially in PvP. A ranged AoE stun with also dealing damage is so nuts, guys. That's really good for PvP. In PvE, a little bit of extra damage can be okay. Jolt Stone, 2% chance to, when attacked, to immobilize your attacker. Not my favorite for Demon Hunter. Vengeance Stone. Primary attacks have a 2% chance, which will go up to 12% chance to increase all damage I deal for 100% for 1 second. Now, this is also another one that I'd really, really be interested in because, of course, I'm primary attacking all the time as a Demon Hunter. So if I time this correctly, I can pop all 3 of my multi-shots, my Rain of Vengeance, my Vengeance, all when this procs, and I can get 100% increased damage, which could be really, really good. Shield when I'm attacked to gain Absorption Shield. Not a huge fan of that one. And Ravager, when I defeat an enemy, it's going to cause the corpse to explode, damaging all nearby enemies. It's okay, not that great. So, which ones would I want? Tremor Stone, Vengeance Stone. Those are the 2 that I'd want. So in order to acquire those family attributes, guess what? I have to go into those and see what attributes I can get. For Tremor Stone, what stats do I even want from here in for my Demon Hunter? The only things I could really go for are primary attacks reduce enemy healing, and primary attacks have a chance to reduce enemy attack and movement speed, and then maybe like stun resistance. And then I would run all 3 of those on all pieces of my gear, and that's really a heavy PvP focused build, but I'm losing a lot of damage that I could potentially have. Not to say this is terrible, but it's significantly worse, I think, than attack speed and skill damage and primary attack damage. You're losing quite a bit of damage from that. Now, reducing movement speed and attack speed and enemy healing can actually be kind of decent in PvP, however, so this actually isn't that bad for PvP. However, do I want to reforge everything for PvP spec when I don't even spend that much time in PvP, and PvP doesn't really give me that many rewards? I'd much rather speed up my dungeon runs by like 10%. I'd much rather speed up my open world farming by maybe like 5-10%, because that will make me a lot of gains in the future. For example, if you're going to earn 4 legendary items per day, let's just say that. Well, now you're getting 4.4 legendary items per day, which means every 2 to 3 days you're getting another legendary item, which can be really, really massive if we're talking about 5 months of gameplay, which we have, or at least I have, almost 6 months of gameplay under my belt for this game, which means could be a lot of extra legendary items if I go for that. The Vengeance Stone, on the other hand, is the other one I would be interested in going for. And this one is a little bit more interesting because I can go with attack speed on here, which is something I already want. And then I could pick up maybe damage to players increase, which could be very interesting for PvP. And then maybe potentially damage to enemies suffering loss of control, damage to shielded enemies, or even damage to demons. All of these could be kind of interesting for PvP and for PvP. So I actually like the Vengeance family attribute much more for the Demon Hunter. Now the question is, now that we've determined, okay, I want the Vengeance family attribute because it has the best attributes and a decent family set, which one is better? Vengeance, the family attribute with attack speed, damage to players, and let's say damage to demons, or skill damage, primary attack damage, and attack speed? Which one of those 2 is better? Now, if I were to just right off the bat say, if I want consistency and I want much, much better PvE gameplay for open world farming and dungeons, I'd probably go with just the stats, okay? Because the stats are just going to give me consistent value. I don't have to play around the family set bonus. It's going to be a lot more relaxing. And overall, I'm going to get more value out of my stats than the family set bonus. However, if you're looking to min-max your PvP gameplay, if you're looking to min-max your dungeon grinding or your speed farming or anything like that, I think there's a really, really nice case for family set bonuses. If you're able to time it so that you can actually get advantage out of the family set bonuses, then you can do some massive, massive bursts of damage for Demon Hunter, okay? This is absolutely absurd to double your damage for a second, because keep in mind, a Demon Hunter can pop all their skills within a second. Triple multi-shot, Rain of Vengeance, even Vengeance, using Vengeance when this is active, can amplify your damage even further. So this is very easy to play around as a Demon Hunter, and you're still getting decent stats. Now, this isn't, of course, the same decision for every class, which is why I specifically was talking about my class right now. For example, if you were to take Crusader, which ones would you probably want? Well, if I jump down to Barrier Stone here, I'd probably want Maximum Life. I'd probably want Beneficial Effect Duration here. And then after that, maybe I would go with Skill Damage, which is 3 separate stones: Jolt Stone, Barrier Stone, and Wildfire Stone. So for Crusader, Would I want the Tremor Stone, Wildfire Stone, or Barrier Stone? Well, for PvP, I might want the Tremor Stone. But for PvE, I'm really not getting anything out of these ones that I would not otherwise gotten better stats out of just going stat-wise. Maybe I'd go for the Wildfire family stone because that might be better for PvE, but probably just go for the stats if I'm looking for PvE. For PvP, the Tremor Stone is a lot better for sure, but do I want to build specifically for PvP and then lose a lot of extra stats for PvE? Probably not, at least personally. So I can't say that for every class I would go one way or the other. And I think that every class has its own different unique circumstances, for one. Two, it also depends on whether or not you want to focus on PvP or PvE. Three, it depends on how much time you spend in PvE versus PvP. And four, it also depends on where you're at in the game, because getting extra stats when you're low in the game may not actually matter that much versus a good family attribute. So that is something to consider. So overall, my decision for Demon Hunter is going to be just going for stats. Currently, I still think the stats are a little bit better for my consistent PvE grinding. However, if I wanted to go ahead and min-max my PvP or dungeon runs, I would be swapping over to the Reforged Stones. That's my suggestion. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you think there's an argument for just pure Reforged Stones across the board in terms of family attributes, regardless of the stats? What do you think? We're very curious on what you all think. Now, this video was actually suggested by someone in my previous video that I went over when I asked for video suggestions. I had actually planned to do this one because of the recent patches, but someone asking for it actually made me encouraged to go ahead and make it a little bit sooner than I otherwise would have. So thank you for dropping that comment if you watched this point of the video. Thank you all. Appreciate you all. And I'll see you all tomorrow.